Hi there and welcome to Bustthenet. On today's show, we're going to take a look at training, how you can develop your players. But before that, I'll need to go and explain certain terms in the game. Some of them are clear, other terms are not so clear. We need to understand where a player's skill is at. So one of the things in the game is to trying to find out what these two terms mean, current ability and potential ability. Current ability, also known as CA, reflects the ability they have at that present time. The second thing is potential ability. Potential ability reflects the maximum value, okay, that a player's current ability can reach. So in other words, if there's a gap between current ability and potential ability like we have here with Rafael Mir, this means that this player is not playing to the fullest of his potential. So there's a lot more potential in this player that can be realized. The other thing that we have to understand is these stars can change depending on the kind of squad that they're in. Sometimes a player's current ability is going to be a function of the kind of team he plays in. This is because that player was probably playing in a shit team in the first place, and then when he came to your all-star team, he's now just an average player in a whole bunch of all-stars. Current ability is a dynamic value. Potential ability is a static value. In other words, potential ability cannot change. Current ability can. A player's CA can change over time, and one of the things that we are trying to do in this game is to develop our players so that their CA is always improving. In other words, we're trying to get the best out of our players. The next thing we need to understand are two terms that are under the hood: progression score and progression factor. Progression score is basically the maximum value. If all things go perfectly well in the world, then this is his maximum value that he can get from training. Let's take the example of an average guy called Joe Block. Joe Block belongs to a club where they have the best coaching staff, the best facilities. He's been tutored by the best players who've got professional personalities. His morale is sky high, and he has a fantastic personality. He's 18 years old, and he has been spending a lot of time with the senior team. He's played at least 15 games this season, and he's always had a match rating of 8.0 or higher. Joe Block will have a good luck factor. So this will contribute to better training output. So you could see upward looking stars. He may develop quickly and become a superstar in no time. But what if Joe Block belonged to a club where there were average coaching staff, poor facilities? His personality could be light-hearted, his morale could be down, he doesn't have a personality that is professional, and he has got low determination. Then his luck factor will be reduced. Now what if Joe Block got injured, broke his leg, and didn't get a chance to play? Or Joe Block was in a game and he turned in a really poor performance because the rest of the team was losing, and he was brought on with 30 minutes to go and his match rating was only 5.8. Well then, poor Joe Block. His progression factor or luck factor would be almost negative. His real training output could be going down. In other words, Joe Block's training development could actually be retarded. Now let's talk about finding your staff. There are several categories that can be worked on in training. With the broad categories of fitness, general, and goalkeeping. Under fitness, we've got strength and aerobic. Then we've got tactics, ball control, defending, attacking, shooting in the general categories. And as of FM18, we've got 3 categories for goalkeepers. In order for you to find out whether a coach can generate 5 stars in a certain category, check the coach out. Find out what his important attributes for that category are. Strength requires, fitness, determination, level of discipline, and motivating are generally the constants for every single category. The only thing that changes for each category are the main coaching ones. So for strength, we have fitness. For aerobic, we have fitness. For tactics, it's tactical. For ball control, it's technical and mental. For defending, it's defending and tactical. For attacking, it's attacking and tactical. For shooting, it's technical and attacking. For the goalkeeper categories, it's pretty straightforward. It's shot stopping for shot stopping, handling for handling, distribution for distribution. The next thing that we'll cover is general training. Now, general training is several categories, and they work on different aspects of a team's development. These are all broad categories that affect the whole team. Balanced training is just balanced training across fitness, tactical, ball control, defending, and attacking. In preseason, if you have a lot of new players, you may want to consider team cohesion. This will help them improve the understanding. However, you only will really do this if you have a lot of new players. So if you added one or two players, this will not have a major effect on your team. So in the general training tab, this is a tab that will affect the whole team. It's general training for the whole team. You have fitness, which affects all physical attributes and work rate. Tactical, which improves anticipation, composure, decisions, concentration, and teamwork. Ball control, which works on dribbling, first touch, heading, technique, and flair. Defending, which works on marking, tackling, and positioning. Attacking, which works on crossing, finishing, long shots, passing off the ball, and vision. Now, if you are going to go into a specific training schedule, remember that you need this category worked on for at least 3 months before it shows improvements in attributes. So if you have a good team, the best advice I can give is just leave it on balance. If you know what you're doing and you want to create a particular style for your team, then you can definitely mix and match your categories as the season goes on. Just remember, it's 3 months per category. The next thing we're going to look at is scheduling. Scheduling basically divides a player's time up, affects overall workload, and can be used to give your players lighter training loads. So if you want to give them a rest before or after the match, this will affect their workload. If you take it off, okay, their workload increases, which means they spend more time training. If you want them to spend less time preparing for a match, you move the slider to the left. This increases the time they spend on training. And if you want them to spend more time getting ready for matches for a temporary boost to their performances, then you give them more. It's not advisable to move it all the way to the right. Then the players spend really only off days preparing for working on their attribute development, and those shaded green in color here will reflect that the team is preparing for the game. The next category we look at is match preparation, where there are 6 options: match tactics, teamwork, defensive positioning, attacking movement, defensive set pieces, and attacking set pieces. Only 4 of these give you short-term boost to match performance. These include defensive positioning, attacking movement, defensive set pieces, and attacking set pieces. In pre-season, typically, we will be working on either match tactics or teamwork, or even both. You can choose to get your team more familiar with your tactics by setting up match tactics. So in pre-season, you typically want to have a nice balance of getting them working on match tactics. But once the season is up and running, you want to make sure that you get off match tactics and start working on giving yourself short-term bonuses for every match that you're playing in. What do I do personally? I never come off attacking movement. When it comes to training individual players, you need to be able to track how they do. And this is where views become very important. You either have one for the squad view. I've created one, I call it club training, where I have all the categories I'm tracking. I'm using tactical familiarity here because I need a placeholder. Otherwise, personality, the whole tab just looks crazy. So this makes my screen look kind of balanced and nice. And then within training, you have one more here, individual. You can also customize this if you want to. We'll use this to explain what we're trying to achieve here. When you first start the game, you will find that a lot of your players are training positions and roles that are general. The description will be very general. So like here we've got Courtney House, and if you go to the training tab, you won't know what attributes are being developed. There's nothing wrong. You could play him as a ball-playing defender, and it'll be just general training. The computer under the hood will make a selection of attributes, but you'll never know what these attributes are. So how will you know if he's working on attributes that are going to enhance your whole teams of play? You have absolutely no idea. So I typically don't like doing this because I'm pretty much a control freak when it comes to training, because I need my players to develop in a specific direction. So what I would recommend people do is look at him as a player first within your system. So here we are playing Courtney House, and I'm looking at his attributes. I want to play with a very attacking wingbacks who can cross the ball, who can get up the pitch and do wonderful things with the ball. If I'm looking at Courtney House, he's very weak in crossing, dribbling, and finishing. He's nowhere near close to being a good central defender. His jumping rate is 14. His anticipation is 13. His positioning is 13. They're just very average. And if we do get promoted, then he's not gonna be in the team. he's just going to be sold because I won't have a place for him because he's a below average central defender, and potentially maybe he can be a half decent fullback. We're going to work on him as a wing back and work on categories that he needs improving on. So he's got crossing, dribbling. This will be worked on. And then he's got the mental. We'll work on his mentals. His physicals are also going to improve. This is a great way to start Courtney House off once he comes off his injury. Now, if I'm looking at him and I know that, I will also know that he's not very strong in this category crossing. So what we can do is give him additional focus in crossing so that he adds more value to us moving up. We'll increase his intensity to heavy. Here we're looking at his workload. Now, this individual training workload will be affected by several things. First, additional focus, intensity level, new player trait. 1A plus B plus C will increase individual training load, and so will the team general training load. So if the team general training load is at average intensity like this, overall workload is medium. However, if we raise this to very high, we will find that Mr. Courtney House is now not going to be a very happy player because his individual training workload will be very heavy. This means that there's a strong possibility he might get injured. So we have to always be balancing the general training workload with individual training workload. Is one of the biggest challenges, which is one of the reasons why these views are very important, because you can't possibly be checking each individual player. So what you want to be doing is to make sure that the workload for the whole team is always at maximum. The maximum highest value you can aim for is heavy. Very heavy is just a recipe for disaster. Now we look at personality. Personality is a very important part in the game. We want our players to have a nice mix of professionalism as well as determination. Ambition is not too bad either. But young players always come in with, sometimes they will come in with weak personalities like light-hearted. There have been cases where I've seen low determination as a personality. So what you want to do is pick one of these players up, go to tutoring and see who can tutor these players. Here we have Roman Saiz, the Moroccan, is fairly determined. He can tutor Dan McKenna. If you look at Roman Saiz, he comes deep to get the ball and tries long-range passes, which is not bad because this means they can play as a playmaker from the back. When you're looking at Dan McKenna, he's got low vision and passing. Now, will those player traits transfer over? That's something that we want to try and achieve. There's a strong possibility they won't, but we will try anyway. You have two options. We can ask Saiz to come in here, and you can improve his game, as is the first option. The second option is to take him under your wing and mentor him off the pitch. Off the pitch is personality. So Roman Saiz's fairly determined personality may rub off on the youngster. As I feel you can improve his game, we'll transfer his personality and the player traits. So we want to give him to transfer some of his player traits across. So we tell Mr. Roman Saiz, the Moroccan, to go tutor Dan McKenna because I like those player traits within my system. We need playmakers as well. Now here we go, M. Gibbs White, who has the potential to be a leading light with the youngsters. However, if we go to try to train him, we also need to know which categories he's going to work on. We've worked on a very broad category of central midfielder for the youngster. But here, if you wanted to tutor him, you can't tutor him because he's injured. And now I want to introduce you to something I love in this game. It's called the progression factor mini game. And that's basically how you develop superstars, turning these youngsters into match winners. How do you do that? It's really simple, but hard to do. Essentially, you've got the moment they turn 18, you've got to play them in your first team. You got to give them some first team games. They have to play at least 15 games. That's what I found out over the course of a few games. So essentially, you bring them on, but you don't have to play them for the full 15. Any amount of time will help to give them the progression factor, which is a luck modifier. Now, essentially what you really need is for them to be playing in matches that you're winning in. So your luck factor goes up. The longer you play them, the higher their match rating, the better their luck factor gets. So at most, I play them only for 45 minutes, at least about 20 minutes. Now, which games do you bring them on in? That's the tough part. That's the part that's really hard to balance. You gotta play games. You got to think that you have a fair chance of winning this game, and then you got to bring him on. That's the gutsy move, bringing them on inside the match, which is why I will choose one or two players every season to be given that little exposure in the first team. The other way of doing this is, of course, to send them out on loan. The challenge of sending them out on loan is quite high because you got to make sure that they're playing for a comparable club, that the club has good facilities, that they get the chance to play, and they're playing in the right position. So these are most of the things most of the other things you can't control. So if they go on loan to a club that's relegation bound, they get poor ratings in a lot of the games. When they come back, they don't really improve very much. It happened to me in FM16 with one of my players. And then when I put him into my team and we were winning, suddenly he became a superstar. So for one season, he was out doing dog shit, came back into my team and started becoming a superstar. So your own facilities play a big role here. So you want to be upgrading your facilities, upgrading your staff. Don't get lazy. Once we hire the staff, we just extend their contracts. Always be looking to improve your squad, improving your coaching staff, improving your facilities, and managing playtime for your youngsters. So pick and choose 2 or 3 players from your youth squads and give them the exposure they need in your first team squad so that you can have your own little Lionel Messi's running around created by you. I hope you enjoyed this short little training guide and it's helped you out. If you loved it, please add a like and a follow to this channel. If you have any questions, please look me up on Twitter. If you have any questions, please look me up on Twitter at Bustthenet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons for their continued support of this channel. You make these kind of shows possible for the rest of the community. You guys take care. Have a good one. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.